Welcome to the She Built This podcast, where we talk to and about women building bodies, businesses and lives. I'm Samantha Charlwood, and I'm known for working with women looking for their bodies to keep up with them as they adventure through life. My unique framework combines body, mind, heart and soul through the lens of conventional things like evidence-based exercise, nutrition and pain science, but also less conventional things like individual spiritual practice. In this season, I'm talking to women in business who have overcome enormous physical and mental challenges and how they support their bodies and minds through these. So settle in and enjoy listening to these phenomenal women and the stories they have to share. Hello and welcome to this episode of the She Built This podcast. I am delighted to welcome Rosie Nixon today, who some of you may know as former editor-in-chief of Hello magazine, but now is very much author, coach, and founder of Rosie's Reinvention retreats. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited we finally got a chance to chat.
Yes, it's good. So I'd love for us to really dive into everything strength, nutrition, exercise based for you. And if we can head back to the beginning for you and what life looked like at the beginning of your career and how much attention you paid, if any, to health and nutrition and those sorts of things in your early days, or was it just go, go, go?
Yeah, well, go, go, go is a pretty good way of summing it up because it pretty much was like that. I began my career in journalism right back sort of 25 years ago now, at the beginning of my career. And I guess I sort of felt like I was on a trajectory to become editor of a magazine. That's what I really wanted to do. I sort of started off, actually, my first job in magazines was editing Barbie magazine.
Oh, wow.
Hilariously. Yeah, a magazine for young girls, but actually taught me so much about the editorial process because I sort of learned everything from, writing all the stories about Barbie and Ken to editing them, creating a flat plan, sending it off to print. And I guess that fast-paced sort of media world where there wasn't so much reliance on all of the support we can have as a journalist now from AI and online, it was a labour-intensive job. You know, every single word you wrote was your own and you had to go off and do all the research. There wasn't social media and Google wasn't where it's at now. So in terms of sort of exercise and kind of keeping myself well, I wouldn't say that I ever really considered, I think, through your 20s and to a large extent for lots of us in our 30s, if you are lucky to be sort of naturally healthy and not coping with any sort of chronic issues like so many women do have to deal with, I took my health for granted, I'd say. I mean, I was always rushing around everywhere, and I am the type of person that people say, do you ever actually sit down? I'm kind of always on my feet. I've always been a busy sort of person and always loved my sort of walks, to the train station, and would definitely be the kind of person that would get off a stop earlier thinking then I can get a walk. But it would probably be because I wanted to listen to the latest music that I was listening to rather than consciously making that
your health
or well-being decision. But I'd say really the first time that I had to really start to pay attention to my health was later in my 30s when I wanted to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then wasn't getting pregnant and didn't know why for quite a while, a number of years. It was sort of unexplained infertility initially, but then turned out, we found the reason why. Cutting a long story short, it was to do with a polyp on the inside of the womb that I had removed, and then I got pregnant very quickly. But going through that period of time really did make me start to think, gosh, could this be something I'm doing, or could something about my lifestyle, which was a pretty party lifestyle. I think as a journalist at that time as well, there were always parties, there were press trips, we used to get flown around the world to different things, there was lots of drinking and staying up late and being slightly hungover a lot of the week. And so I think, that was the first time I thought, right, okay, I really need to put some focus on my well-being to get to the bottom.
And with that then, where did you, because I think a lot of people maybe I recognize that and just think, okay, so where do I even look? I mean, it's very different now, isn't it? Because we're almost in this glut of information where we're bombarded with stuff. But back then, like, what was where did you look? Where did you look to?
Yeah.
Or, how did you start making changes? Was it just doctor led or?
Well, probably magazines as
Yeah,
well. I always worked in women's magazines, and then obviously I sort of went up in age from Barbie, teen mags, and then a magazine called New Woman, Red
yeah,
magazine, Glamour, Grazia, before I found my home at Hello. And obviously health and well-being was part of that mix, but
yeah.
not to the extent that it is now, I don't
No,
think. Still, those conversations weren't happening around menopause and perimenopause, and I'm sure
definitely
we'll
not.
come on to that because that was another life stage, like the one of getting pregnant was before, where you start to think, oh gosh, hang on, I'm in a different sort of chapter now, and different rules apply, and I need to
Yeah.
think about my health and well-being in a different way in order to best support myself. So I think I would go to probably always had a health editor, or I would,
Yeah.
see the pages in those magazines.
Okay.
Um,
There. Almost like a
but
sort of
the thing that was
Google.
good about them, yeah, was that it wasn't a Dr. Google. It is that you could trust the voices in those magazines because they were doctors.
Yeah.
They were experts, and I think it's much more of a wild west out there now with unsolicited advice and self-proclaimed gurus and all of these experts. That it's very hard to know what their credentials actually
And
are.
quite often, the more polarizing they are, the more traction they get, right?
Well,
So,
that's it. And then their
yeah,
account grows, and
yeah,
they're kind of saying things that are not substantiated or rooted in science or
no,
biology. So
no. It is a
it can
bit
be really
terrifying.
hard. And I do, it is a worry. I think we're luckily of a generation that kind of hopefully is better able to advocate for themselves.
Mm.
But that, has been hard won as well. And I have had experiences where you go down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out what could best support you, or have I got this condition? And
Particularly when it's something that's really triggering, like, like trying to become pregnant or going through the menopause. You've got these really big pain points, haven't you? And that makes you super vulnerable, I think, to this
absolutely.
advice.
Well, yes, we all know when you go through a challenging time, you're ready to read up on anything that could
Mm.
possibly give you some kind of answer.
Yeah.
And the quicker fix an answer that you can find, the better, which is generally kind of what the algorithm plays to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and certainly at different life stages. Similarly, when I went through burnout, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well, I
Yeah.
bought every book going on that subject. But I did turn to books then, interestingly, feeling that there is that layer of credibility
Yeah.
with a published book, especially if it's been picked up by a big publishing house. Then I would know that there was some kind of due diligence that had gone on
I
before that
think
book
there's
was.
an element of self-trust as well, you have to kind of think, well, okay, I take responsibility for how this plays out, really, isn't it? That, because everything, I mean, my biggest thing that when people ask me a question, it depends, is generally the first thing that comes out of my mouth,
Yeah,
because it does quite often. I was only watching this morning about how everybody's experience of perimenopause is completely different. So the
yeah,
idea that there's going to be one cookie cutter solution is,
absolutely. There are
yeah,
very few sort of universal truths, aren't
mm,
there?
yeah,
Especially in women's health. I
yeah.
think, which is why women have been so poorly sort of served by the health service, because so much of that research has gone against, a male experience. And the more that we learn about women, the more we understand how different biologically we can be and our
Yeah.
hormone fluctuations. And it's really hard,
It
to
is. I
often
mean,
get a diagnosis because of that.
absolutely. Yeah. The complexity of it
Mm,
actually lends itself to being, too difficult. There's no linear kind of path, is there? So,
yeah.
okay. So from sort of 35, you've had your babies,
Mm,
and then you kind of, what happened after that? We're going back into work after having
yeah.
children, and then did you find any snippets of time to look after
Mm.
yourself?
Yeah, well, around that time of kind of figuring out fertility, so I was actually 38 when I had my first child and then 40 the second, so fairly geriatric as it was called.
It's awful, isn't it?
And I did start with a personal trainer then
Fab.
that was really game changing for me. I think that level of accountability, I mean, yes, there is a cost to it, but I found that I was far more likely to do it if my hard earned cash, was going against this
Yeah.
weekly, and it could fit in because it was on a gym that was fairly close to the Hello offices where I worked then. That it really works on my schedule. So it's finding something that really fits in with your life is important. And I've always been a morning exercise person. I find it
Okay.
really hard to motivate myself with exercise later in the day. Although sometimes, I mean, it's very different actually now the way I approach exercise, and it's such a major part of my life. But back then it was finding the window when
Yeah.
I'd be most likely to do it. And I really liked my PT, and I worked with him for a number of years. And then I did joint sessions as well with somebody else from the office so we could share the cost. We'd even go out occasionally at lunchtime, actually. If we couldn't make a morning session, he'd come and meet us at lunchtime, and we'd go around this little
Nice.
garden that was near
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
exercise outside, which was really nice. So,
Lovely. Yeah.
really, that time, and then I continued it because I
Yeah.
felt so good. I exercised throughout my pregnancies, which I think really helped me then become stronger. And after having the babies, again, sort of focusing on, postnatal exercise, did Pilates for the first time then. But it became very much a part of my life, which felt like a transformation actually, because it definitely wasn't earlier on. I was never like the sporty one at school. I was always sort of middle of the road, I'd say,
Yeah.
at sports, like not amazing, not terrible, but just kind of trundling on. It wasn't something that ever really defined me. It was much more kind of on the arts
Yeah.
side,
Okay. Yeah.
But I, yeah, then started to realize actually exercise makes you feel really good. This isn't actually a chore. And I started to go on then some retreats, of often press trips, like yoga retreats or fitness
Yeah.
retreats. And I got really into those, thinking, well, if I had some time off, obviously I want to feel as good as I could feel, and that I can feel amazing through exercise. So it's become part of my life, really, I'd say then from that time, kind of
Okay.
late 30s.
Yeah.
But the idea of sort of competing in things didn't come to me until a bit later. I think I ran my first half marathon when I was, had I just had a child? I'm trying to remember. No, I think maybe it was before my first.
Okay.
Um, and I ran another one the year before last. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're about 10 years apart, pretty much, or
The-
more actually. But that then sort of I started to get into running, and running still has a part in my life. I don't
okay.
think I really am a half marathon or a marathon runner. A sort of between a 5 and a 10K is my sort
Yeah.
of happy place. But the running, realizing then sort of the mental health benefits of
Yeah.
just getting outside, and I always run outside, it's never on a treadmill
It,
because it's as much about being out in the
yeah.
fresh air and giving myself that time.
Yeah.
And definitely using exercise as much for the mental benefits as the physical.
I think that's what some people miss, isn't it? That chunk of, and this is one of the things I've been leaning into with my group program actually this week, is the idea around making it more like a ritual rather than a habit. So thinking of like, okay, what steps can I put in that actually makes it almost sacred? It becomes
Yeah,
that time that's yours that you can
absolutely.
boundary off. And as you say, for you, making that time out of the office and making it really intentional time that you're spending away is huge. And
Yeah,
from
consciously planning that into your diary.
yeah,
I'm now very protective of my exercise time, and I'll put it in my diary as I
yeah,
would any other meeting. But I
yeah,
think for a long time there was a little bit of guilt kind of associated with that, oh, like the yoga class or the, whatever session was just a bit of an add-on. And
yeah,
now, having experienced burnout and kind of what that can feel like when you do prioritize work a bit too much,
yeah.
then you
But
end up spending all of that time trying to get yourself back on track, turning to all the things that you maybe let a bit go
Yeah. So
in the
let's dive into that a little bit then with the, what, because again, I think some people who are listening to it may recognize themselves in some of the things that you say. So that's one of my kind of things I like to be able to show people a mirror. Sometimes and people don't realize when you're in it. And I'm sure that's probably one of the things you'll say, that when you're in it, you have no idea you're in it. And it's
Yeah,
not until you're out of it that you go, whoa, okay, that was scary.
absolutely. So, yeah, so, exercise had always been a part of my life, but then, hitting a point with two young children, I did actually go back to work sort of a bit early on my second maternity leave, feeling a bit of a pressure.
Okay.
Kind of promotion was dangled in front of me to be editor-in-chief at Hello. And if I look back, I definitely probably went back a bit before I was ready.
Okay.
But I made that decision, and threw myself back into work. And with the relentlessness of that job in the media at the time, when magazines were having an amazing heyday. I mean, at that time at Hello, we could sell 1 million copies in a week.
Wow.
There wasn't the social media to the extremes that we have now, so there were exclusives to be had.
Yeah. No, I remember you'd wait for that magazine to come out so you could see
And
the
everybody wanted to
pictures.
work with Hello, so I feel
Yeah.
so lucky to have been steering the ship, at that time. But it was relentless,
Mm.
and you were at the whim of the news agenda pretty much 24/7.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
we went to press every week, but we were sort of starting to build up a digital operation as well. And exercise did become less of a priority.
Mm.
I'd say I still had my PT kind of once a week, but it had to be on a Monday because that was our quietest day because we went to press on a Friday. I
Yeah.
mean, work came first, really, and I didn't quite marry up. And, it's only in sort of reflection that I'm realizing this, that I didn't really quite marry up then the benefits to my stress
Yeah.
levels and my nervous system
Mm.
and how valuable exercise was going to be in just making me able to tackle, such a busy workload.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
still felt as though work stress was sort of one thing over here, and your physical stress was like another entity, and your physical health was another entity over there. Hadn't
it's almost
made that
bizarre
connection.
now, I suspect. You think of it like, how did I not connect the two?
Totally, and many of us don't
Uh,
realise the simple truth that stress lives in your nervous system, and if you ignore the warning signs for long enough, it comes and affects you. If you allow that to grow and grow into chronic stress that doesn't become managed, and you never give yourself a proper chance to recover from the relentless, the busy pace of life, then your nervous system will take a hit and you may get unwell, which is what happened to me.
And it's this whole the idea with exercise for me is how I kind of think of it is like building capacity within your body. So it's almost like your
Yeah.
nervous system that you can hold more because your body can hold more. So that's where the sort of the strength training piece comes in, because you have a knowledge of what resilience feels like within your body, so your cells feel what resilience feels like, and then when you can put that over to the nervous system, it's really interesting to see the crossover, I think, of that building strength and capacity within
Yeah,
every part of you.
yeah, you're right. I love that idea of, feeling what resilience feels like.
Mm, yeah.
And teaching, and you talked about rituals before, and I think neuroscience has to come into it as well, sort of showing your mind, our minds are sort of capable of change, and our
Absolutely.
brains, and that it loves a kind of steady rhythm of a ritual and
Absolutely.
a habit.
Yeah.
Because then it can cope with the stressful times, thinking, well, we can get through that because we're all going to go through busy, stressful periods. It's unrealistic to think we won't, but it's what we do then to recover. It's like
Absolutely.
you wouldn't run, well, unless you are one of those crazy people that do things like the Marathon des Sables,
Yeah, oh my God,
can't
yeah.
just go and go and go without recuperating. I think there's so much we can learn from the sporting world because you show us, athletes show us that the rest and the recovery is
Mm,
just as important as that high intensity energy required to win a race, to win
100%.
an Olympic medal.
And that would be one of my questions actually, is how do you feel like going through perimenopause and all of those things, because even this morning I was talking to somebody and she was kind of, why can't I do what I could do before? And I was talking through the recovery side. So do you notice a difference with
Yeah.
what you can do and how long it takes you to recover, all of those sorts of things?
Well, that is the huge other part of the puzzle as well, because I think when I was tipping into burnout, I was 47 at the time, and it's
Ah,
kind of, I look back and it's, well, I was exhibiting classic signs of perimenopause, but again, I was too busy to really go to the doctors and kind of get to the bottom of it. Even though I was fronting a menopause campaign at work, I was interviewing all these
the
women in the
irony.
they were telling me these stories about how they went into perimenopause and these were the symptoms, and I sat there just nodding sagely, thinking, "Oh my God, I think that might be me as well." But
Wow.
what do
Yeah.
I actually do when it's you, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I learned a lot actually from lots of those conversations that I had, and being lucky enough to have access to some really great experts in their field. The importance that exercise can play in that.
Mm.
And that's when I sort of began then to switch from a running sort of mindset into lifting weights. And that helped me hugely in my sort of recovery from burnout and also getting on top of my perimenopause symptoms. Because obviously our muscle mass kind of drops, you know, as estrogen is declining
Yeah.
in the body, so many other osteoporosis, you know, other things that we can be more sort of liable to as we go through perimenopause and the menopause years. So,
Absolutely.
so strength training, I started to do at first, kind of mixing it into my kind of PT sessions, and then luckily the PT that I have around here now is a woman, and she'd done some training in menopause sort of exercise and well-being, and so we really started me on weights, and I
Fabulous.
loved it. I really, really enjoy lifting weights now and
It's
getting
so
stronger.
good. Yeah.
And for me, it has been all about getting as strong as I can be. Now
Yeah.
I'm 50. I definitely feel stronger now than I've ever been, I
I
think.
love that. That's so
Yeah,
good.
ready for my first high rocks
I
next
know, I was
week.
going to come on to that. So what made you choose? I mean, I guess it's just, oh, let's try High Rocks. What was
Well,
or did someone
it
just sign you
actually
up?
chose me. Yeah, my PT Petra, who is brilliant, actually got me a High Rocks entry for my 50th birthday and sort of said,
Happy birthday.
"You're doing this with me. Let's do it as a pair." And so I
Oh,
think that gave me the impetus. I don't know whether I would have. I mean, I think lots of women think High Rocks isn't for 50-plus-year-old women.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's probably not their target market, let's be honest.
No, probably
But
not.
but I see more and more now that
Yeah.
I am part of this group, hopefully, that will be a High Rocks finisher. I'm
You
visualizing it.
will. You absolutely will.
That once the idea settled with me, I thought, actually, this is a good challenge. She said, look,
Yeah.
this would just be a great challenge. You
Yeah.
know, the only race is with yourself. It's not like I'm competing for my country and I'm
Yeah, they
doing.
don't take you out and shoot you or anything afterwards, I don't think, if you
No,
do it.
exactly. I'm doing this as a marker, you know, of my own health and
Yeah, yeah.
strength to see how far I can go. And
Is
again,
that,
the accountability piece of
yeah,
the training, keeping
yeah.
you on track, working towards something. I don't think I would have got out of bed, you know, for this high rocks class I go to on a Friday at 6:30 a.m. if I didn't have the race in the diary.
There is something about that. And I was also thinking what a great full circle moment for you in terms of, where you were and where you are now. I mean, that's just incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is, and it's a marker of how far you've come,
Yeah.
definitely. And I'm reserving judgment on whether I'll do one again, but everybody says it gets quite addictive when you've done one. But we'll see. I don't need, you know, necessarily to think what I'll do with it in future.
No.
It's been a great challenge for
Yeah.
now, and I've actually really enjoyed the training, and I've had to look at nutrition as well, really more so than I had done in my recreational sort of
Yeah.
keeping my exercise up way. And I was definitely an intermittent faster who just never really liked having breakfast, and I've completely changed that. Now I have to have breakfast because as I mentioned, I prefer training in the morning, and I just cannot do it, and I cannot lift those heavy weights
This is the
without
thing.
enough protein, yeah, or
I know.
something keeping me going. So I'm
Yeah.
experimented with all different kinds of protein powders and things. And I now take a protein powder, in a smoothie. And that really sets me up, and I can lift heavier because of it.
Yeah.
And the muscle sort of grows in a much better way as well.
I think also with regards to that, it's the the slight mindset shift around, it's not about diet and exercise, it's about training and nutrition. So it becomes much more a very, very different narrative behind what you're eating and why you're eating and what that's actually doing for you, as opposed to,
Yes.
especially in this, how skinny can we get world that we've got going on.
Totally, it really is. And for me, it's never been about weight loss or getting smaller. It's really been about strength.
Yeah.
And I try to never weigh myself because, I mean, it is so hard to tell with muscle mass now. I definitely feel like I can see by the shape on clothes, that I've probably lost like an inch or two from my waist. But I don't necessarily feel lighter. I just feel stronger, and I love that feeling.
So good, isn't it?
Yeah,
And this,
it really is.
yeah, I'd love to bottle it for people. And this is what I'm on a bit of a mission at the moment, because I'm kind of, what's the barrier to more people doing this? Because, maybe that's a question for you actually, because for me, I feel like I've been in the strength world for quite a long time. And I wasn't ever really worried about coming into it. But some people are still very much like, oh, I don't want to go in the free weight section, or...
Yeah, they are. I think that's a lack of understanding
Yeah.
of, not the right sort of knowledge. And often women do say, don't they, but I don't want to bulk up. I don't want to, well, as we
Good
all know,
luck.
you're going to be really lucky. I'm like desperate to get a bit more definition on my arms. I've got some now, but it was motivating as well, if I'm honest, that changing shape in midlife. And I felt like I don't want to have bingo wings. I want to feel confident getting my arms out, and I want to feel confident in a bikini or a swimsuit every time I go on holiday, and I want to run around after my kids. I had them late, I want to be throughout my 50, 60 beyond, running around with them, sort of able to do all the sports that they want to do. Whenever we're on holiday, I've got free spare time together. So why would you sort of prevent yourself from doing that? Well, we all know that the world has changed. We are all going to live longer. That's a fact. Longevity is now a buzzword, but how are you going to live better? How are you going to live longer, well and better and
Absolutely.
and
And it's sort
you
of...
owe it to, if not for yourself, for everybody around you.
100%. And it sort of terrifies me in some ways that people could very easily end up in there. We talk about this last decade, which isn't very, it's not very fun, but it's how will you spend your last decade, however long that is. And that's the kind of predictor of, what are you doing now to make the last decade of your life as absolutely fantastic as possible? And I know it's a little bit morbid, but it is, just looking at all those steps, because otherwise you could end up just simply existing for 10 years where you
Absolutely.
don't have that quality of life.
And when that switch sort of flicks and you realise that it will improve all aspects of it, it's getting that. And I think that's sort of what feels like a shame that was perhaps the missing part for me earlier on in my fitness journey through school and in, my 20s, because there really wasn't much around then about the benefits of how good it will make you feel. I felt it was all it felt like a bit of a chore, like a thing you should kind of tick off the list. And it really was just noticing, how my mood can change. Often, if I've had a stressful day or I've got writer's block or something, or things are not, I'll just think, oh my God, I just need to down tools, put on my gym kit without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think I just need to go out for half an hour and run, 5K, and it's amazing. It's like this bubble bath that has happened in my brain of oxygen and generally ideas as well. I always say to my kids when they moan about going out for a walk, I'm like, I've had all my best ideas on walks.
It's never sitting in front of a computer, is it? And I talk with my clients about, it's all energy at the end of the day, and energy wants to move. And so the second you feel like your energy's sluggish or stuck, or, you just need to, and sometimes I'll just grab a kettlebell. Literally, I have a kettlebell in the office and I'll just pick it up and swing it like 20 times. And even that real just switch thing, I haven't had to change, I haven't had to do anything, and all of a sudden you've got this completely different outlook on everything.
Energy. That's it. It makes you feel energized. And and getting over the fact that it doesn't actually, have to be loads.
No.
It doesn't have to be a PT session 3 times a week or whatever. It doesn't have to cost. You can sort of make do with whatever you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a
And
bag of books when I started. I used to have this rucksack,
yeah,
and then I'd fill with really heavy, like hardback books, and just use that
yeah,
because I just literally couldn't afford to buy weights. So,
no.
it was and a free video on YouTube, and that's the accessible piece, isn't it?
That is, isn't it? And that is kind of great that if you
Yeah,
know who are the right people to follow and those that are probably trained, like you, sort
yeah,
of in their fields, and then those are the ones that you can then follow for
yeah,
those routines. But it can be some mornings I've only got sort of 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and I put that onto, a timer, and I do, a quick sort of a
few
few
bits.
rounds, 45, yeah, sort of Tabata kind of start, like
Yeah,
45 seconds on,
10
15
seconds rest,
seconds
or
off.
yeah,
Yeah, and I can get round sort of 3 rounds of that. That's about 7 minutes a round. I could do
yeah.
2 or 3, and it's just energizing, and I
Wow.
will have a much better day ahead.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
so critical for me, definitely that first hour in the morning, and that doesn't involve getting up early many days, around the kids' wake up times. But I know it will set me up for a much better day. I never think, oh God, I'm annoyed that I did that.
No. And that's the ritual side of it, isn't it? Where you can go back to actually this is I'm doing this not because I have
Yeah,
to, but because I choose to.
I choose to,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yeah. So if you had, I'm going to put you on the spot with three non-negotiables for
Mm,
to set you up for your. Sounds like one of them is probably doing a workout,
yeah.
but three non-negotiables in terms of your health and wellness now that you are like absolutely protected with your life things. What would they be?
Well, yeah, definitely getting the exercise in and lifting the weights. I mean, even when I'm on holiday, I always take my gym gear, and I'm really happy if there is a gym at the hotel that I can go to. Or we stayed in Crete last year, and there was actually an outdoor gym in the
Oh,
place that
lovely!
we stayed in. It was just lovely,
It's
and
such a
that
treat, isn't it?
motivated me to go early in the morning as well.
Yeah.
Before it got too hot and before everyone else had really woken up, and it made me then feel right. I've got the day. I'm control. It elongated the days as well, is what we all want when we're on holiday.
Yeah.
I don't want it to go too quickly, and it set me up for the day, and I felt so good. And
Fab.
often people say, "Why would you take your gym kit on holiday?" And I think, well, because it makes me feel amazing. Why wouldn't I
Yeah.
want that?
Brilliant.
So definitely that. But then in the same breath, a lesson that I learned the hard way as well is building in pause time into
Yeah.
my diary. So yeah, I don't have to be striving every single day. Now, exercise can take many different forms. I think I have to be intuitive and lean into what feels right for me on that day.
Yes.
And some days it isn't doing an hour-long session in the gym
No.
and lifting heavy weights. Sometimes it's going for a walk, or walking the long way back when I've dropped the kids off from school if it's a nice day, and that's what I'm capable of that
Mm.
day.
Yeah.
So I think leaning into pause moments, and building those into the diary as well, and keeping those as boundaried as you would any other exercise,
Brilliant. Yeah.
because that all supports the nervous system.
Yeah.
Um, and the third one, I think I would say about the benefits of protein. Yeah,
Yeah.
having discovered a good protein powder, and it's an Ancient and Brave one called Ancestral Protein, because I couldn't find one that I liked for ages. They
No.
all felt sweet, and this whey protein that was like very sweet, vanilla or
Yeah.
chocolate, and I was like, I don't really want that in the morning. I mean, this one is cacao, but it's not sweet, and it's a bit cinnamony, and I can mix
Nice.
that with banana. I really like it.
Yeah.
So finding something that works for you,
Yeah.
I don't really fancy cooking up a whole load of eggs or eating turkey in the morning or whatever, like some weightlifters might do. So
Yeah.
finding something that works for you, but don't underestimate, the benefits of actually putting the good stuff, the nutrition into your body, because
It's
it'll
the
give you
building
the
blocks,
energy
isn't it?
then
There's
to
no
get
point
through
in
that
doing.
workout and to enjoy it so much
Yeah.
more.
And if you haven't got the building blocks to make the house, you're doing all this effort and you haven't got the thing to kind of actually create it, then it's probably, you could
It's
be
making
doubling
a
down
house
on it.
out of paper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And final question then, what would you love for people listening to understand maybe about, and I think we've probably answered this anyway, but maybe just round it up in terms of like the
Mm.
difference that it can bring to your life. What would you love for them to take away in
I
terms of,
think that understanding of your nervous system, yeah, that, the benefits that physical health has, not only to physique and sort of how we look, especially for women, there's so much pressure around that, but the calming of the nervous system to make you better equipped then to deal with the challenges that we're going to have in our lives.
yeah,
So it's a tool that you can have in your belt, it's a
yeah,
medicine,
yeah.
and it makes you feel fantastic. And
Mhm.
those first, I always find, whenever I'm going for a run, the first kilometre, the first couple of kilometres are always the hardest.
Yeah,
It's the same on any journey, but you've just got to keep going through that bit, and then it's the sunshine is on the other side.
yeah. You've
So
never,
just keep going.
yeah.
Hard things always give us the biggest reward.
Mm.
So it's worth giving it a try.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I'll put all the links to how people can, get in touch and join one of your fabulous retreats. So I'll put that in the show notes. But thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
And
you're welcome.
yeah,
Really enjoyed
enjoy
it.
the rest of your day. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, Samantha. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're very welcome.